Hello and welcome to Transplant's Take on Sport. My name's Lewis Daniels and my guest today is kidney transplant recipient and 2017 World Transplant Games Javelin champion, Moray Laing. Moray talks about his experiences of competing at the British and World Transplant Games, his time on hemodialysis, and how he returned to golf after his kidney transplant. He also passes on a piece of advice from his consultant that has helped him through since before receiving his kidney in 2008. If you're enjoying the podcast, please help spread the word by telling your friends about it, and make sure you press subscribe or follow wherever you normally get your podcasts. As always, if you'd like to follow Transplant's Take on Sport on social media, all the information is in the show notes. Moray Laing, welcome to Transplant's Take on Sport. How are you doing today?
Hi Lewis, how are you?
Very, very good, thank you. A bit sort of down from the announcement yesterday. For the benefit of the listeners, we're recording this the morning after England and Scotland went into, or the morning after the announcement of England and Scotland going into lockdown from, I believe Scotland is now in, and England from, I think it's midnight on Tuesday, midnight tonight. So we hope you're all doing well. We hope you're all coping. This will be out around 2 weeks after that. So from Transplant's Take on Sport, we hope you're all doing well. We hope you're coping. If anyone is struggling, please have a chat with someone. I'm sure all transplant recipients are more than happy to talk with you, as we've all been through tough times in the last year with the shielding. And what's really been a bit of an on and off lockdown year. Moray, how have you found the last, 2020 and the few days we've had in 2021?
Not too bad, to be honest with you. I think from the outset, sort of March time, we took the decision home-wise to sort of go into a bit of a lockdown about a week before the national announcement. So obviously for my purposes, I'm extremely clinically vulnerable as everyone else is. So my wife's very switched on to all the COVID situation and has been all the way through it. She's been really spot on at keeping everybody in line. So I was doing a bit of travelling, so we decided not to do any more travelling. I was travelling to Hampshire every week. So we stopped that, and then literally, I think it was, I can't remember the date now. It was about the 16th of March, I think. The announcement came in, and then we had the period of time. I had a deadline. I think that my 3 months was going to be up on the 9th of June. Of course, it went past that as well. So, but fortunately, it went reasonably well. It wasn't too difficult. I didn't leave the house certainly for the first couple of months. But we're quite lucky. We had a decent sized garden. The weather, as you probably remember, was absolutely fantastic. So
boiling, wasn't it?
The garden was well and truly maintained, if you like. So we did pretty well in the garden. Built a chicken house, got chickens, got a new greenhouse, got vegetable patches. So we didn't sort of spend the time lounging around, as it were. So, but I think it's just all about the positive thinking of it. It's just to sort of let's get it done and get it out of the way, which has really been my sort of attitude all the way through my sort of experience of transplant pre and post. So that sort of carried on really.
Sounds like you've had a productive lockdown, and we seem similar in our attitudes to it. Very careful, as you might. We're on Skype at the moment, as you might be able to tell by the sides of my hair. I've taken it quite seriously.
Well, the clippers arrived via Amazon about 9 weeks into lockdown, so it was getting a bit hippie-ish. So I've had fairly short hair all the way through, but it took that a while to arrive. But my wife's become quite adept at a 3 on top and 1 at the sides. So not bad.
I think I've been once since March, which is not great, but it'll do. No one can see this. It's an audio only. We're going to come on to your transplant soon, as you alluded to. You're part of the extremely vulnerable group. But as this is primarily a sports podcast, I'd like to come on to the sports that you played before your transplant. What did you do up until then?
I was always a footballer, really. That was my main sport at school. Like Steve Harrison, actually, you interviewed before, I was goalkeeper. So I had the easy end of the field to deal with. But I played a lot of football, sort of county level, Saturday League county level. And then I got injured, I think, sort of early 90s, and I did some refereeing. Yeah, always been involved in football. Football, golf certainly was the sort of second sport, and it's probably my primary sport at the moment. Um, a bit of squash as well. So those are the main ones for me. I did some rugby at school, rugby when I was in the police as well, so did some police rugby.
So football you played to a decent level by the sound of it, and then went into refereeing.
Yeah.
How long did you keep that up for until you transplant?
Well, I was diagnosed with end-stage renal failure in 2005, and yeah, about April to. In fact, it was Good Friday, the day after Good Friday, so I call it Bad Saturday on in 2005, and I'd become progressively ill up to that point, and that's the point at which the doctor, the consultant, said, "This is where you're going now: transplant, dialysis, transplant." So I played on that day in the afternoon, and I carried on playing for a little bit longer. So probably about a month before I started dialysis, which was the July 2005, I was playing Vets League football. So the day I got the diagnosis, I had a really good consultant, a guy called Mike Bending, who everyone down this way in Surrey will know of very well. He's retired now, but very much in the fore of sort of renal research, etc. But his advice to me on that day was the best thing was to do was he sort of touched his temple. He said, "It's all about what's up here. It's all about how you deal with it." He said, "If you can keep yourself positive up there, then you're halfway through the battle." And that's all. And I think I mentioned earlier, that's really how I've sort of looked at things. So yeah, and even that afternoon I played football, kept a clean sheet, saved 2 penalties. So that
Oh,
was
very nice.
the start of me feeling positive about moving forward. And that was just me thinking, right, you're not going to give up on this. Just going to do what you can, do your best with it. And that was sort of a bit of a significant thing for me that afternoon. So if I can carry on like this, then I should be okay. And touch wood, I have been really.
I think you're spot on with the attitude towards it. It's got to be the best way to look at it. If you stay positive, then you can keep going further. And how important was the sport leading up to your transplant? And I would say especially maybe golf, because I don't know if you maybe in the same position as me. I played football as well. My fitness dropped leading up to my transplant. So did golf become more important the closer to your transplant you got?
Well, I was still able to play golf because I wasn't quite as energetic. I think I did start to use a buggy. I certainly played in when I was on dialysis. I played golf. I would get tired, certainly. I can't remember the timeline of it really, but I used to go to Scotland every year. I was on dialysis, so I went up there for the first time and played. Quite a tiring week, but up to the transplant, I was probably still playing golf regularly, once a week up to that point. Yeah, and I was sort of keen to get back to golf after the transplant as well.
Was it competitive standard you were playing at?
Only club golf. I was a member of a golf society that we'd been a member of for a long time. So we used to have meetings every year. I used to play in sort of police society days as well. I was with the police at that stage. And yeah, I used to play some competition. I was down to about a 10 handicap at that point. So fairly decent.
Decent
Certainly for my
standard, yeah.
standards anyway. Yeah.
So then you played right the way up, and then your transplant came. We'll go a bit further back
Yeah.
to start with. When did you first find out that you had kidney problems?
It all started. We moved house in 1998. We moved house, and I went to register with my local GP. Did a blood test, a urine test. They picked up on the urine test that was a lot of protein in the urine, and that doctor said, "I know exactly the guy to go and see it." It was this Mike Bending. So I got appointments through him. I was with Bupa at the time, so I went to see him and diagnosed IgA nephritis, which is a condition that affects mainly young to middle-aged men, for which there was no known cure and no known cause.
That was my cause as well.
Yeah, as you know, it sort of pushes up the blood pressure, and the blood pressure affects the kidneys. It's a bit of a vicious circle, but it was treated with blood pressure tablets, really. And I carried on like that, no problems at all, up until late 2004, and I started to feel ill. And all of a sudden, I went one day I think I was really ill, went to the doctor's emergency appointment, and blood pressure was over 200 over whatever, I can't remember what it was now. Which you need to go back to see Dr. Bending, and that was the went back, had blood tests, and that led up to the bad Saturday, as I call it, in 2005. That's when I got the diagnosis of end-stage renal failure.
So did you end up going on dialysis?
Yeah, I went on hemodialysis. I got the diagnosis from as I say, I think within about 2 or 3 weeks, I had fistula in my arm. First surgery I'd ever had in my life. And then I had to wait for that to sort of build up a bit, and then it was July 2005, I went in for my hemodialysis at St Helier, and I was on that for about 2.5 years.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
For those who haven't listened to, I think it was episode 3 that I did with Simon Elmore, who was also on hemodialysis. Could you explain to the listeners what that involves? I was never on it.
Yeah, sure. As I say, fistula is effectively, as I understand it, I hope this is right. They join the artery and the vein together in my arm. Do in other parts of the body as well, but in my arm. So it's joined at the wrist, and it just basically builds up a big blood vessel, and they insert 2 needles into that blood vessel, and effectively on a loop, which goes through a big machine, a dialysis machine, which basically cleans the blood, gets rid of all the waste products. I was doing it 3 times a week for 4-hour sessions. I was doing many evenings as well. So not great.
How did you deal with the? Did you put the needles in yourself?
No, it was done by the staff of the hospital all the time. I mean, people do self-needle. Well, they certainly you can have dialysis at home now, hemodialysis at home, where people self-needle, or I think family members can needle them. But but all the blood tests and hemodialysis I've ever had, I've never watched one needle go in my arm. I just don't. It's not something I'm queasy about. It's just I just chose not to watch it. But
Yeah.
it takes a bit of getting used to. But it's not too bad after a while.
So the dialysis, thankfully, eventually stopped for you, and you got a transplant. How long did you have to wait for that?
Yeah, July 2005 I started. I got the transplant on the 23rd of January 2008. So just over about 2.5 years. Yeah.
And that came
Yeah.
from a cadaveric donor, didn't it? Which I've realised I've been using that word right the way through. For anyone not transplant related, a cadaveric donor is an organ donated from someone who sadly passed away, and themselves and their family have agreed to be part of the organ donation list and pass their organs on to somebody else who needs them, like you.
That's right. Yeah. I never knew anything about the donor. I think the doctor, when I first got to the hospital, did let it slip where the area where the person had come from, and it was a male, but I didn't know any more than that.
Have you been in contact with them since?
No, not directly. I've sent letters on the anniversary of the transplant. Not all the time. I didn't do it initially, but I actually talked to some donors at the transplant games, and I think I was ungrateful at all, and certainly used to think about the donor pretty much every day, and probably still do to an extent. I just felt that getting in touch would be something that would remind them of the bad time when they lost their sort of loved one. I was sort of thinking more about them than certainly my feelings. But no, I spoke to a donor at the transplant games. My wife also sort of persuaded me, this is the thing to do. And I did write to express my gratitude. Let's putting it mildly. And have done so ever since. But I've not had direct contact now.
How did it feel expressing your gratitude to indirectly, if you like, to other donors?
Yeah, it's an odd one. It is an odd one. I'm not a great one for sort of expressing myself and certainly emotions too much. The manly man that I am, I suppose. I think it's a men's trait, isn't it? You don't talk about your feelings too much, but I've learned to. And you write it down, and it's right to be saying to people that I am grateful, and you need to know that I am always grateful. And I think that's what settled my mind into getting used to doing that. It wasn't that I didn't want to do it. I didn't think I should. It was just something I overcame, and that's what I do now. So coming up as well. in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. That'll be the 13th anniversary.
Wow, it's a long time. I hope mine gets that far. I'm nearly 18 months on.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about what happens next? Because you said in the week you're now waiting for another one, aren't you? Or going through it
Yeah,
again?
I've got gradually. My kidney works pretty much straight away after the operation. I think within a day or so, or maybe a couple of days, it wasn't working initially properly. So they decided to give me another bout of hemodialysis while I was in hospital. And strangely enough, and the fistula that I mentioned, sometimes when you're on hemodialysis, it can rupture while you're having the hemodialysis. It doesn't. It probably sounds worse than it is, but it's sort of you have a slight break in the fistula. The machine goes alarms and everything goes off and everything. And that happened to me while I was actually lying in bed on the dialysis after the transplant. But it seems that happening actually sort of kick-started the kidney. It was really weird. After that, the doctor said, "Well, this is working now." So yeah, so that's what happened immediately. So it took I was in hospital for 5 days in total.
It's not too long. I think I was about 12, so you've done quite well there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've heard other people saying 5, and I've heard, obviously, unfortunately, other people coming up saying much longer. I saw a documentary recently with a guy who I think was in for about 3 months or so. But yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I said with this positive attitude. Just going back to dialysis for a minute. I mean, that was my approach to it, but clearly for some people, and I do recognise this, it's not as easy as that. And there were some people really struggling with it. I mean, I've certainly the group of sort of about 10 people that I sat with in dialysis in a sort of a room, we sort of sat around. You didn't always talk to each other, but you got to know each other. Unfortunately, 4 of them died while we were on dialysis, not in the actual dialysis unit, but you sort of lost people there. It's
Must be sad to
and
see.
some people weren't as lucky as me to have their kidney working almost straight away as well. So you do count your blessings.
So after the first transplant, your only transplant so far, you did get back into sport. Did that feel like a big moment when you started again?
Yeah, I was keen to do it, and I'd heard about the transplant games as well while I was on dialysis, so I knew that was an option for me. So I was quite keen to do that. In fact, the Golf Society I mentioned to you, that we were due to travel to Ireland for the annual trip to play golf in May. And I got the call to the hospital to go in for the transplant, and I texted my friend to say, because there was nowhere I was going to go while I was on dialysis. I said I might be up for that trip in May. I'm sitting on a hospital bed waiting for a transplant, and that's how it turned out. That was the first sort of main trip I did after the golf. So I was over in Ireland in first week in May playing golf. So I was quite keen to get back into feeling better. Obviously, I was more lively as well than I had been. So I've sort of written off playing football because of the contact element of it.
Yeah.
So golf was probably the main focus.
We'll come back to your golf in a second. I wanted to come on to what you've done. What are your other events at the Transplant Games? Your field events, javelin, discus, shot put.
Yeah.
How did you originally get into doing those? And do you think it came from being a goalkeeper and throwing?
Well, actually, at school, I played obviously rugby and football at school, but I also did athletics at school. And again, with javelin was my main sport. I did that to county standard at school, but hadn't done anything athletics-wise after leaving school. So when I got the opportunity to go to the first games, which was Coventry in 2009, I just sort of looked at the list of things to do. There was golf. I did fishing, I think, that time. And I did put myself down for the discus and shot put because I knew I'd done them at school. They didn't do javelin at that point, actually. So that was really the first time I picked up anything like a shot or a discus since school time. So that's what got me into it. But yeah, throwing the ball from football was pretty good because it kept the shoulders pretty fit.
Did it just feel natural to get back into the ones you were good at school?
It did actually. As I say, I mean, literally, I don't even think I properly trained for Coventry in terms of javelins and shots. So unfortunately that year my father passed away, so I'd had quite a busy summer dealing with everything with relation to that. But so I think the first time I picked the shot up was at commentary on that day. Yeah, sort of got back into it gradually. But it was all right. It was good. Well, I won gold. I won gold at the shot on that one, so that was quite a
Oh,
surprise.
first time.
Yeah. I'm really absolutely gobsmacked when that happened. I did swimming as well as commentary, actually, just remembered. Yeah. So yeah, it was good. And then I missed the next two Transplant games because I had an injury, I think, and I couldn't go to Belfast. And then 2012, it was down in Medway, and that's when I started. I've been to every one since then. So, and that's when the Javelin came in.
Have you got any sort of training program that you follow throughout the year to get you ready for the Transplant Games?
Yeah, I have now. Certainly, a lot of weights. I mean, I also do running now. I mean, the Parkrun didn't exist before I had my transplant. It obviously does now. But I've got into Parkrun quite a lot in terms of participating and organising, which has been quite good. So the running side of that keeps me fit. Yeah, it's a gradual sort of weights regime from about sort of March, April time up to usually August time, Transplant Games. But yeah, I've set myself some. I have been maybe a gym as well, but I've got weights in the garage, the weights bench and things like that. So nothing too elaborate, but good enough.
Useful to have.
Yeah,
We'll come on to the results of that training program, and you said Javelin was the one.
yeah.
World champion Javelin at the World Transplant Games 2017. How did it feel to win that?
It was just amazing, and it was bizarre as well because it was my first World Transplant Games, um, and I was doing golf, and I was doing the 3 field events, and the golf was first. I played golf, the singles, and I played the team game with a guy. I'm sure he'll never forgive me, George Mortlock, who's quite well known to everyone the British Transplant game. I got paired with him, and he must have regretted it because the first hole, I took a shot, the second shot, I think, and I pulled my groin really badly, and I was limping all the way around the golf course. I thought, I'm never going to be able to do the field events like this. Anyway, we played so bad. I played so bad at the golf. Poor old George. I think he'll forgive me. Anyway, we got to the athletics, and I was really hampered in the shot. I just could not get anywhere near on what my best was. Discus was pretty much the same. And the Javelin was on the second day at the end, and I'd had a lot of the physios, the British team, were fantastic. I went for a session with the physio before the Javelin, put loads of ice on this. Went out, it was so hot, and they had all these ice cold drinks. So I was holding an ice cold drink on my groin between throws. And for some reason, out of the blue, I just launched this Javelin it was over 36 meters, and won it. I didn't realise I'd won it. I thought I was about third, I thought I got a medal, but I thought I was second or third. And everyone got together at the end of it, looked down the list, and I thought I won it. I just couldn't believe it. It was really emotional, really emotional. The first person I saw after it, my wife was up at the stand with my son. The first person I saw was the physio to give me the physio. And she said, "Oh, how'd you get on?" I'm not expecting. I won the gold. I can't jumping up and down. It was brilliant, fantastic.
Do you think the injury could have helped in a way? The adrenaline, just I'll throw this as hard as I can, as far as I can, get it out of the way.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it literally was my last chance of getting a medal at the games. I thought I don't want to go home from here without a medal, and I thought I got myself in the position to get maybe the bronze, possibly the silver. I think I must have missed some of the throws not watching, but it was yeah, and then they had quite a good medal ceremony, which was pretty good. And up on first, it was just yeah, no, it's just amazing, and it made it all worthwhile, and sort of perseverance, the positivity sort of comes out of that. And it was yeah, so from that moment on, I was addicted to doing it again. So and I went to Newcastle and in 2019 didn't do quite as well. I was had a bit of an issue with my shoulder, but I got the bronze in Newcastle, so that was good. But yeah, but these are the sort of things you can achieve when you get the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So I sort of hope I make the most of it.
At the World Transplant Games, what's the atmosphere like there with transplant recipients from all over the world and donors from all over the world?
Amazing. I mean, I made loads of friends in transplant games, and certainly British games, certainly with the St Helier team and everyone else. You see all the regular people play golf and do athletics. I've trained with people from good friend Bob Hodgkiss, Nick Stonehouse, who are both good field eventers in my age group. Um, and internationally as well, you meet people. I've got Facebook friends from all over the world now. Hungary, America, New Zealand. Yeah, all of a like mind. You're all there for a reason. No one really wants to be there if you at the bottom line. It's the British team's a team you don't want to be in because one of the qualifications is to have a transplant, which nobody really wants, but once you've got it, you make the most of it. But yes, so one of the best things I've got involved in ever with the British team, certainly. I think the organisers of it, people like Lynn Holt and Barry Laverick, and other coaches do a fantastic job, really fantastic job.
Absolutely.
I think it's the third biggest GB team that competes anywhere.
Wow.
Second only to the Olympics and the Paralympics. I think that's right. So it's quite an honour to be part of.
Would you say that's one of your proudest moments in transplant sport, being selected?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I've been selected before for it to go to Argentina and South Africa and Australia, I think, but I just couldn't commit to it, unfortunately. But yeah, no, that definitely Spain was, and I want to do it again. I mean, I don't know if you're aware, they've just announced that the Transplant Games yesterday. They announced the Transplant Games in 2003 are going to be in Perth in Australia.
Yeah, hopefully get there.
So that is, for me, that's a target, a total target now. Would be to get there, and I'll be up into the next age range. Then I'll be 61 by then. So
Might be an advantage. Younger end.
Well, the javelin will be lighter. That's for certain. Javelin, discus, and shot will all be a bit lighter, so it might go a bit further. You never know.
The spring chicken of the age group.
Yeah, maybe. That's one word for it.
We'll come on to the golf that we've talked about a few times throughout this podcast so far. The golf after transplant. The javelin might help in a way because if you have a bad round at golf, you can throw your clubs further than anyone else.
Yeah, probably underarm more than overarm, but yes, yeah, I probably could get quite a good distance. Yeah. There have been times when I've been tempted, definitely. Yeah, it's that sort of game, isn't it?
Just pick the flag up. Watch this, I can throw the
Yeah,
flag into
that's
the
true.
hole.
Yeah, that's probably about as close as it comes. Yeah. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to go back to the same club again, but there we are.
So we said before you transplant, you were playing competitively and your handicap was 10.
Yeah.
Have you been able to get back to the same level that you were at before you transplant?
I'm not quite back there. I'm playoff 15 now. I don't play as much golf as I would like to. I mean, work gets in the way a little bit as well. But and obviously lockdown's been a bit of a pain in that respect. I just closed the golf courses once again. But yeah, I don't play as much. But it's a good walk spoil, they call it, don't they? It's good to get a bit of exercise, a bit of fresh air as well, especially with all the lockdown. Having been locked up effectively for a while, it's good to get out and about.
Have you been able to get many rounds in this year?
Last
year, if you like now.
Last year, I think I probably in total played about a dozen times. Yeah, so I did play my up to March, and then yeah, I think again I didn't play again until about sort of September, but I got quite a few rounds in towards the end of the year. I joined a youth club, so I'm sort of making the most of it really.
Were those dozen rounds that you got even more important in the year that we've had for the social side
Yeah,
and the
definitely.
relaxation?
Yes, it is. As much as staying at home with the family is a good thing. It's a great thing, obviously. You spend some quality time with your family. It is good to get out and about and see different people. I've got some good friends who can play golf with. Who are the sort of people who will lift your spirits if you need it done. I mean, I'll keep fairly positive, but it's good to get out and have a laugh with different people as well. No disrespect to people at home, of course, but yeah, and get your steps up and get your exercise minutes in on your Fitbit and that sort of thing. So, yeah.
I imagine in the social side of golf is similar to cricket, which is my main sport, in that you're spending a long time outside with the same people, like-minded people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I presume you can just talk about all sorts of nonsense really while you're walking around.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we obviously talk about a lot of what's going on outside and the lockdown, or how the government are doing well or not doing well, or whatever your view is on it. But it's it is. I think I probably enjoy golf for the social side slightly more than I do the playing side, but I play reasonably well. But it's always good. I mean, British Games is a good example of that. You see everybody the same every year. You see the same people. There's some real characters in the golf fraternity, shall we call it? And it's something to look forward to. Or every year is something to look forward to. Even if you don't play that well, but yeah, they're a good bunch. They're a good bunch of people.
I think golf's something I think I'd like to be good at. I've only tried once on a 3-club challenge.
Yeah, you and me both. I'd like to be good at it as well.
And we spoke about steps on a golf course. Another way to get your steps in that you've started is Parkrun. Uh,
Yeah.
what attracted you to that?
Well, my wife started doing it. I mean, if you'd have said to me when I left school, one day you'll be running 5K runs every Saturday morning, I thought you were mad. I hated running, absolutely hated it. Used to hate cross country at school. But my wife got into Parkrun at our local one, which is Banstead Woods, and so I went along with the dog and walked the dog while she was running, and then sort of watched and thought, yeah, I might give it a go one day. And then, sort of gradually got persuaded to do it. Or maybe I might do it, and got into it. And again, that's a similar sort of situation to the groups of people you play golf with, etc. Such nice people. Everyone's like-minded. It's not. There's nothing competitive about it. You compete against yourself. You try and beat your best time from last week. And then we got into the organisation of it, the volunteering for it as well, which has been good. So it's good social side of things.
What does the organisation involve?
Well, effectively, they have a management team who effectively set up and run the run, if you like. So you set up the course, you set up the finishing line, you set up the starting line. You have volunteers who are placed all around the course just to make sure everyone's going in the right direction. Marshalling, you have timers, you have barcode scanners, you have a barcode you're scanning. So there's quite a lot of it. There's good. Certainly, Bands is a good 20 to 25 people volunteering. So certainly, if you do run director role, which I've done a few times, you're sort of in charge of everything, and you quite a responsibility in terms of health and safety and that sort of stuff. So you have running marshals as well. So I think I've done 110 park runs now. But it's great. And again, it's you getting out in the fresh air. Unfortunately, obviously, that's succumbed to lockdown as well. When that will come back, I don't know, but maybe spring, possibly summer now.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah, totally.
Have you got to know a lot more people through that you're now friendly with? You might go out running with away from the events.
I don't know about running away from the events, but I do know. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that has happened through Parkrun is that I actually got into. I actually joined a local athletics club. People got to learn about my sort of transplant games activities, and I ended up speaking one day to someone who was the coach down at Reigate Priory, and through a friend, and said, "I'll come down. We've got a Vets League team we're starting next year," so I got involved with that. So that was good because that got me involved in athletics and the non-transplant sports side of things. So I'm actually competing against able bodies, if that's the right word, people fully fit who've not had transplants. So that was quite a challenge. And I think I've done fairly well with that as well. So
I was going to say you're holding your own in there.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the last 3 years I've been in the top 13 in the UK Javelin for my age group.
Very good.
So I did the British Masters a couple of years ago and came 7th. So yeah, good enough. I never thought I would be doing that sort of stuff. But again, it's enjoyable. The people, you get to know the competitors. You compete against the same teams, so you get to know some of the other athletes and everything. So again, it's another group of friends. So I keep making these groups of friends, which can't be a bad thing.
Yeah, only good to have as many friends as you can, more people to talk to, especially now when you get it, talking so important at the moment. If you've got so
Yes,
many people you
yeah.
can go to, it's a nice thing.
Yeah, it's all by WhatsApp group now. So unfortunately, there's a problem. But well, most of it is anyway. But yeah, it's good. It's good. Yeah, they're very supportive as well.
Have you got any plans to run at the Transplant Games?
No, apart from the donor run, I think I'll do the donor run next time. I didn't do it. In Newport was the last one I was at. I should have done it actually, but to meet my wife was coming down on that afternoon, so I had to pick her up. That's my excuse anyway. But yeah, the donor run's pretty good. Nice atmosphere. They did it along the quayside in Newport. It was good fun to do. So, but I've done every time I've been to British Transplant Games, I've done a local park run there. So I've done park runs all over the place: so Liverpool, Newcastle, Scotland as well. So yeah, but I don't think I'm quite fast enough for running in the Transplant Games.
Could be, maybe
There's
something to work
too many
towards.
fast people. Well, yeah, but I mean, you see the speed of some of these guys who run. I mean, I'm not necessarily my age group. I mean, you see the likes of people like Steve Jarvis, who just is an amazing sprinter. Simon Perkin, who's a middle distance runner. Just you just look at them, you think surely you've not had a transplant. You know they have, obviously, but yeah, no, they're way above my level in that respect. So, but they can't throw javelin, so there we are.
There you go. Every cloud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to going. Hopefully this summer, if it goes ahead. Hope it does.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, it's people will see the transplant sport page, talk about Leeds, and someone was saying yesterday, "Oh, I really hope it's not going to be off." I think it's a bit early to write it off at the moment.
Yeah.
I think once the vaccinations kick in, hopefully by August time, which is when it's due to happen, that it should all be done. I think most people from the transplant community should have had their vaccines by now. So fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed they work when we get our full doses.
Yeah, quite.
Murray, it's been a pleasure to chat to you. I've not spoken to you before this, and I've learned from you, as I have from everyone who's been on the podcast. A few more things before we wrap this up. What would you say has been your greatest achievement in transplant sport?
Well, I suppose it has to be the gold medal at in Malaga,
That's
Javelin.
what I would guess.
Yeah. But even the first time I competed in 2009, it was the first time I'd had any involvement in the transplant games. So that sort of kick-started my sort of interest in it. So that was getting a gold medal at shot on the first day in Coventry. It was just as good
Cracking
an
start.
achievement because it just showed me that I could sort of bounce back and do those sort of things. So, being selected for a British team, is quite an honour.
Yeah, it must be
Very much
a
an
special
honour.
feeling.
Yeah, and getting the shirt on with GB on the back and everything like that. Yeah, it's pretty special.
And the final question that I've been asking everyone who's been on the podcast so far: what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone facing a transplant?
Yeah, well, it's got to be that advice I was given by Mike Bending. He points to his temple and said, "It's all about what's up here." If you can stay positive about things, it's not always going to be easy. But you can try and stay positive and look ahead to what some people can achieve on it. That's the way to approach it if you can. It's not always possible for some people, I know that, but if you can keep it up there, that everything's going to be okay, and you make the most of it when you get the transplant, then you can't go far wrong, in my opinion.
I think you've nailed it there. If you think positively, it's going to do you a lot of good.
Yeah.
Try and always. When I said a few episodes ago, so then I was told by a psychologist, think about what you can control now. If you can't change it now, don't fret about it.
Yeah.
Stay positive. Keep thinking that it's going to be all right. You'll get, if you're on the waiting list for a long time, you'll get your transplant eventually, and hopefully, with the new law that came in last year, more people get their second chance at life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I'm hoping I'm not going to have to wait 2.5 years for the next one. But again, obviously that depends on someone, unfortunately, having to donate one to me. So it's a bit of a mixed sort of bag, really, the emotions involved in that. But I think just to add to what I said, advice-wise, after transplant, if you're that way inclined, I would definitely get involved in the transplant games. Definitely, without a doubt. You meet so many people who are like-minded, and it's not until you actually go to those sort of events and talk to people, then you realise you're not on your own, and people understand what you've been through, so you can just talk to them on a sort of not on a normal level, but people understand, and you get so much encouragement. I absolutely recommend it to everybody.
There you go, Moray Laing, my guest today. Thank you very much for coming on. Once again, I've enjoyed it. It's been a joy to listen to you and have a chat with you. A few things from me before we go. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tell your friends and family about it. I'd love to get as many people listening as we can and build a real community here. Or if you're not enjoying it, just tell your friends you did anyway and tell them where to listen. And if you're listening on Apple, it would mean a huge amount to me if you could go onto the podcast page and just press 5 stars on the rating. That'll help more people see it, and hopefully we can bring more transplant recipients and family, anyone else really, any sports fans, anyone who wants to listen, bring them all together, get them all listening, get everyone interacting, and hopefully bring people together, and we can learn, talk about transplant sport itself together. So thanks once again to my guest today, Moray Laing. I've been Lewis Daniels, and you've been listening to Transplant's Take on Sport.